Previously on Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
This is Guardians of Geek, and this is one of my favorite shows of the year. This is our year-end review.
We brought back our two favorite pop culturalists. We've got Neil Temple, and then we've got Backstage Ben.
So we'll start with movies. We'll start with the hits.
I think my favorite one overall, though, would have to be Long Legs.
The one that stuck with me the most is The Substance.
I'm going to say Abigail.
Totally like a blockbuster is Deadpool and Wolverine.
And so I was like, what? What is happening here?
Did you do that in the theater? Did you go,
I did, out loud, yeah.
So let's move on to Mrs.
This was certainly not the worst movie of the year, but it was just such a disappointment, and that was Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire.
And one such movie was Borderlands.
Mine's Gladiator 2.
My worst movie of the year might be a little controversial, but it was Beetlejuice. I love Tim Burton, and
Doesn't sound like it.
I don't anymore. I've given him the boot.
A category of like it's just an open category. Let's start with Neil. What's your hit for this year?
There's a toy company that really killed it this year. They're called Jada Toys.
And it keeps getting better and better, and that's horror movies.
It's the quickness of movies from the theater to on demand.
I'm a huge Legend of Zelda fan. They kind of surprised fans by dropping a new video game this year on the Switch.
All right, let's look at some misses. Like the trend of the popcorn buckets at the theater for movies. They're never available.
Basically, any like unique new IP that they try, like any kind of independent movie, everything flopped. That
Celebrities are charging too much at conventions, you know? Like
Yeah.
It was the negative press that movies were getting that kept people away from them.
All right, well, that's the end of part one.
Bye-bye.
And now, part 2 of the 2024 year in review on Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
In a world filled with intergalactic space battles, metahuman destruction on a global scale, and psychopathic serial hauntings, there's only one team who can make sense of it all. When your world is overrun with rampant pop culture, call Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek.
Yes, we are back with part 2. You may recognize the cast. We look a little different than we did in part 1. But that's because a whole lot of time has passed between when we recorded part 1 and we're recording part 2. So, so we looked a little different back then, but I'll take this off now. So now you'll recognize me. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
oh, there you go. Perfect.
So we're back with part 2 of our retrospective of 2024. You will remember our esteemed cast: Neil Temple, Backstage Ben, Loop, and I am Larry, and we're going to break down the best and the worst of TV this time, and what we're looking forward to in 2025.
Yeah,
Right.
taking a look at the year ahead. So let's get moving on that. Let's start with television hits. And it looks like I'm up first.
All right.
Okay, so my TV show of the year was True Detective, which came out really early in the year. That might have even been January or February. I can't remember when that came out. But such a great, like, of that True Detective, like, I think there's 4 now in that series. Like, I forgot it was True Detective. It just stood on its own. I love the whole idea of it. It had a very, like John Carpenter's Thing sort of feel to it. But it didn't go the way
I have not watched it yet. No spoilers.
Okay. But it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go.
Okay.
So there was no alien out of a giant spaceship that had landed years earlier in the form of a dog. But it was fantastic. I just thought the acting was incredible.
Yeah.
The setting was incredible. Like it kept me glued the entire series. I just loved it.
And
I totally agree.
Didn't Jodie Foster just win Golden Globe for?
Yeah, she's won. I think she won the Emmy as well.
Yeah.
For it.
Yeah.
I agree, Luke. I read somewhere that it was never meant to be a True Detective series. Like, it was developed as its own thing, and then they kind of saw it, and they added some callbacks and that sort of thing into it. But that explains it. I really liked it a great deal. I think I would have liked it better without the True Detective-ness of it.
Yeah.
Great detective show. I mean, you're allowed to have detective shows that aren't in that branding, but I really, really did enjoy it. I was shocked that as I was kind of looking back in prep for the show too, looking back at some of the high hits and misses of a lot of critics, it was a very divisive show. It was a lot of people either liked it or like my co-host Jeff couldn't get into it. He didn't like it. He likes all the True Detective seasons beforehand. Couldn't get into this one. I thought the setting was fantastic. I do
Yeah, I
love
loved
a
it.
polar sort of series sometimes, but yeah, I really did enjoy it, and I was shocked at the amount of people who actually did not enjoy it.
And I can see why you maybe wouldn't, but because maybe they're not as intelligent as you and I. But
Yeah, it's gotta be.
but it's no, it was just like yeah, the setting was great. Like it just intrigue and like I love shows where you're not sure where it's going and what happened. And they
Yeah.
I think they just
Yeah.
the story just sort of was given to you in a nice way that it was like you could each week it's like, oh, okay, that's what happened and that's how that connects, and everything connected really well at the end and made sense to me. So I
Yep.
really enjoyed
Yep.
it.
In my attempt in 2025 to not listen to any critics, I'm going to go ahead and watch this show despite what your friend Jeff says about it.
No, you know what? He's a good barometer. If he doesn't like it, chances are it's a pretty good product.
Okay.
Well,
Good.
That's hilarious. All right, Ben, you can go next.
Oh, thank God. I wanted it. Fallout. Man, did I love Fallout.
Oh my
That
God,
was-
so good. So
that
good.
show blew me away. And again, similar to, as I said before, about like waiting to get home to watch something, I was waiting for those weekly episodes. I loved it. I loved Fallout 3 in New Vegas when they came out years and years ago. This is all BC, right? Before children. So when I had a life that I could kind of do what I wanted.
Yeah.
But this was a show, they nailed it. They nailed the tone. For some reason, video game adaptations to the small screen are so much better than movie adaptations. You know, we had The Last of Us last year, and hopefully this year will be just as good. I was absolutely blown away. All my super high expectations were met and exceeded with Fallout. I loved it.
So, as someone who hasn't watched it or played the video games, do you need to have played the video game? So you don't? You okay?
No,
No,
I
you
never
certainly don't.
I've never played a single Fallout game in my life, and this show was so like intriguing and so I mean I don't know if it helped or hindered it, but I just loved it. Like it was just start to finish. That show had me hooked, and I can't wait for the next
Well,
season of it.
The game series itself was such a great conceit of like the storyline is not in any they're very open world games, so you're kind of playing your own character. The characters for the most part are all brand new in the series. It's just it's that Fallout vibe. It's in the Fallout world, post-apocalyptic, you know, that kind of thing. But it just has that tone of, man, these are dark times, but like, there's still that lightness to the whole thing. And it was just they nailed that, and that's what people love about the Fallout series in so many ways, I think. And that's they nailed it. And God, hoping that they do the same with season 2.
Oh, it's so good.
All right. It's
Yeah.
now moved to the top of my must-see list.
Perfect.
Neil, did you watch this one?
oh yes,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's tied for my favorite show of the year. So I'll mention the other one then. That's
Okay.
that it's tied with.
Well, we might as well go to you since we're talking to you. So what was your other one?
Well, other than Fallout, the greatest video game adaptation of all time in terms of a live action thing, X-Men 97. I have a feeling Luke might mention this too, but
Yeah.
X-Men 97. God, like they did just about everything right, you know. They even made Morph cooler somehow.
Yeah, they did actually. Yeah, you're right.
Because they took it because they thought, okay, well, this guy can turn into anybody, so let's have a scene where he's like Colossus for a second, and then he's Psylocke for a second when he's fighting, and he needs to fly, so he suddenly becomes Archangel. I mean, what a wonderful character! But the show is so great. The surviving cast members, several of them were recast, of course. And some of the new voices, I think, deserve a lot of accolades as well. Lenore Zahn plays Rogue, and she got some kind of award for her excellent performance. But they're all great across the board. You know, Jennifer Hale as both Jean Grey and Madeline Pryor. You know, just being a huge comic book fanboy, you know, since the '80s, of course. And they did a lot of interesting adaptations of those original Chris Claremont stories, like Inferno. But I mean, they had to do Inferno very truncated. They had to make it kind of one episode kind of deal. But they did a good job with it, amazingly, surprisingly. The only complaints I ever hear about this show are just the tiniest, stupidest, tiny little things. And it seems like everyone seems to love this show across the board. Not because it's diverse, you know, not because it's, you know, like all these different characters. I mean, X-Men has always been that way. But the fact that they, for me, adapted Inferno, they adapted Life, Death, they adapted certain storylines from the 80s that are classic storylines, and then they threw in what happens with Gambit, what happens with Madeline Pryor, Madeline Pryor and Cyclops' son becomes Cable. Okay, if you don't know that, sorry, but that they do that whole thing where the bishop takes them in the future and they do the things, they did the thing that I grew up reading and loving, and the reason why it was my very favorite comic book growing up as well, and just the fact that everything was perfect as far as I could tell. I mean, it's a 10 out of 10, just like Fallout for me. I thought it was just perfect animated series. I can't wait for the next one, which is probably a couple years away. Same with Fallout as well, because of these wildfires in LA, right? Apparently that's causing a lot of delays in productions as well, right? It's not just actors losing their homes tragically here, but people in Malibu and stuff are getting destroyed, but the productions are also going to be delayed. So unfortunately, it's going to be a while before we see the next X-Men 97 and Fallout, but I can't wait. Definitely the two best shows of 24.
Yeah, for sure. Like my top list was True Detective, Fallout, and X-Men 97. so far we're all covered. So we're doing well so far. So Larry, what's yours?
Well, it will come as no surprise to people who have listened to the podcast because I've talked about this thing pretty.
Oh no, I know what it is right off the top.
What is it?
It's Penguin.
It is the Penguin.
I forgot about
that was my number 2. Yep.
Absolutely, Ben, when you're talking about being excited at work to come home and watch it, whatever day it came out, now I can't remember, it was Wednesday nights, I would wake up in the morning thinking, oh, this is the day. There's another one coming out today. And I haven't felt that way in a long time. This, to me, was a perfect TV show. It was Sopranos level gangster good. But it was at another level. Like I could not, through the entire season, get over the fact that Colin Farrell was playing that character.
Incredible performance.
He was gone. Like he was completely gone as a human being. This, like Oz Cobb, it was not Oswald Cobblepot. It was Oz Cobb. Was his own person. Like this was somebody that they cast to play that role. It was remarkable to me that somebody could perform the way he did. And just the tone of the whole thing, it was so gritty and so dark and so real. Like I felt like in this world, this is how people behave. Like people were behaving the way they should in this kind of gangster universe. And so I connected with virtually every character, which is rare in a show. And they're all like, they weren't people you should connect with, but I connected with them the same way I connected with Tony Soprano, who you shouldn't connect with. He's a bad dude. He kills people, but yet you do. And it's just, I love these people. I love this world. I just could not get enough of it.
I agree with everything except for it being real, but that's a part of what I loved about it. It's real in that world,
yes,
but it's so over the top. Like there's it's still appropriately comic book gangstery, right? Like they're all such wise guys, and like they talk about being made and all this sort of thing, and like the level of violence, which was shocking at a few points, like several points, it fit that world so well. And I wasn't sure as it started. Sure, it's an HBO show, but it's a Batman show. Are we going to get like an R-rated show? Yeah, yeah, we definitely did. Absolutely. But it's still, it fits within that world so well. I adored it too. I loved it.
No, let me clarify. By real, I didn't mean like real world, like this could really happen. I meant the way the characters were interacting with each other, and the arc of everybody's storyline felt actual. Like it felt like that's how these people would progress in this world. Like they weren't doing things out of character. And speaking of character, I've never seen a show, a comic book style show that was gangster related that had such depth of character. The story, like the personality and the personality flaws in Colin Farrell's portrayal of the Penguin were remarkable. Like you went from thinking he was a genuinely caring, loving person to realizing, no, he's a psychopath
Yeah.
in the blink of an eye. Like
Yeah.
he could turn that on and off unlike anybody I'd ever seen before. Tony Soprano wasn't quite as good at doing that, but they were so good at making you forget that they were horrific, terrible, scary people, by building connections with other characters and then suddenly throwing you back in. It was terrifying. Like these people were scary. I mean, it wasn't a horror movie or horror show, but these people were like some of the most terrifying characters that were out in 2024. I thought, like, I would not want to meet up with any of them, but they were just incredible to watch.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I agree. I thought the origin story of the Penguin was really good too. The tragic circumstance of what happened, what he did, right?
Yep.
And his relationship with his mom was really good. His mom was like all strung out and like, crazy, but she was great performance. And Sophia Falcone, played by Kristen Milioti, I think her name is.
Yeah.
She's a star. She's a star.
So good.
This year.
Yeah.
Wow, what a great performance. Her character arc, what she has to go through, right? Like Arkham and then release and then revenge and then she's gonna try to be the new big bad. Fantastic stuff. Just really, we knew that Colin Farrell was going to be brilliant because A, we knew the makeup was great, and B, we knew the performance was great. The makeup helps the performance, but we didn't know the writing was going to be that good. So I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And just to wrap it up, the other thing that I really liked about it is that it was a comic book show. It was a comic book based show, but if it didn't need to be like if you had no interest in comics, if you had no interest in Batman, it wouldn't have affected your enjoyment of the show. It was such a fresh take on a comic book storyline because there was no Batman. Really, I mean, really, there was no Batman. There were no superheroes. There were no superpowers. These were just real people who were doing horrible things in this horrible city. And that's what I love about Batman to start with, is the grittiness and the darkness and the fact that it's not always gadgets and special powers and things like that. But I love the fact that they made a comic book show that was anti-comic book.
Yeah, I appreciated how they tied it in with the movie. Like, you didn't have to have seen the movie. They contexted it well enough. Obviously, like, it takes place. I mean, there are shifting kind of timelines in it, but the way that it takes place, the way that they handled it, I was a little fuzzy, honestly, on the Batman because I'd only seen it once in the theaters when it was there, and my memory is starting to fail me. So it was great because it was like, oh yeah, that all checks out. They handled it very well. But they context it within its own universe without having to have seen the Batman first.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it was one of those shows too, where at the end, like I won't give away the ending if you haven't seen it, but I know we all have. But the way it ended, I was like, it's like, no, that's not happened. That did not happen at the end. Like, it was one of those type of shows where you're like, no, that did not just happen. Like that's no, there's got to rewind it back. No, that's not it. No. Like, it was so weird. It was I was shocked at the end of it.
Yeah,
like it was shocking.
It was a literal gut punch like that.
Yeah, and I was like, "There's no way!" Like, and to leave you like that after a show, that's a huge thing, right? Like now, I'm like, I cannot wait. I was kind of like going into it, like I was, you know what I mean? I'm not a huge DC guy, but I didn't mind the Batman movie. But by the end of it, I'm sold on it. Like I was just like, this is so good, so good, top to bottom.
It's rare to leave an audience feeling like devastated. Like this is Mike Flanagan level devastation.
Oh boy, that's why I liked it so much.
That's why.
Yeah. There was no penguins in it though, was there? I don't
were you disappointed in that?
I needed more penguins, like in the Batman movie where they had all the penguins and or umbrellas. Not a lot of umbrellas used in
You're
this
not allowed
either.
to watch TV in 2025. That's it.
Damn it. Again. Every time.
Yep. Ruined.
All right. Is there any honorable mentions that anyone's like, I've got to mention this TV show? I feel like we've mentioned like a lot of the big ones.
Yeah. Getting a little less in the geeky version, the geeky side, but I've said it every year. Every year it's released. Only Murders in the Building. That show continues to be so much fun. I love a good murder mystery. I love the chemistry of the three leads, and then the cameos on cameos and actors on actors that were in this fourth season were great. And then Bad Monkey. I'm not sure if any of you guys saw Bad Monkey or not with Vince Vaughn. No. It's Apple TV. It's based on a book from one of my favorite writers, Carl Hyacin. And it's it's created by my favorite showrunner of all time, Bill Lawrence, who did Scrubs, Shrinking, Ted Lasso. He's done a ton. It's a like light and airy Florida-based mystery where Vince Vaughn is Vince Vaughn, but he plays the character that he's playing very, very well. Like it's true to the book. It's smarmy, it's sweaty, it's so much fun, and I can't recommend it enough. I was so excited when they made the announcement because it was all the things that I like, all these weird, obscure things that I love, like Carl Hyacin and Florida and all that sort of thing. But then everybody who's watched it so far, they love it. It's got a great vibe to it.
Yeah,
cool. It's now on the list.
There we go.
The only thing I'm gonna add, and I know it's like I don't know if anyone loves it as much as I do, but I love Squid Games too. Like I still love Squid Games. I love I even watched the reality show version of it, and I loved it. I can't get enough. I just can't get enough of the whole concept of Squid Games. And I thought the second one, even though the whole story's not really finished, obviously it's only half a story right now. But I just thought the way they got you into it was pretty cool this season, and I'm enjoying it like nobody's business. So it's good.
It'll be my business as soon as I watch it. So, I just want to throw in there again, not necessarily geeky, but I do have to mention once again Yellowstone, only because it wrapped up this year after a very, very long hiatus. And not only is it one of the best shows I've ever watched in my life, and I'm not even exaggerating, it had one of the strongest endings of a show. So, because you get so invested in a show and then sometimes those endings just, break the show for you. This one did not. They nailed Taylor Sheridan is one of the best creative minds out there right now. He's like the Vince Gilligan of
Western.
Kind of thing. He's just phenomenal. I just love his work. Hell or High Water, the movie was amazing. And he is so good at what he does because he creates such an authentic world. That's part of his thing, is to make it as authentic as possible. So anyway, Yellowstone, the whole series is out there now. Phenomenal start to finish.
Good. So it does end well. That was my concern, obviously, with Costner leaving. I think I got 3 seasons in before I dropped off because they wanted me to pay for Paramount Plus, and I wasn't going to.
Right.
So they hooked me with the first 3 seasons, then I was like, no. I stubbornly didn't do it, but
yes, they treated his departure perfectly. It was, and in a way you would not expect. Not at all. Like they literally built the entire last season around the fact that he was not there, and it was awesome. It was so good.
I also love Yellow Jackets as well. It was good. I don't remember Costner in it, but it was really good. I enjoyed it. I like the girls all, are they going to eat each other? We don't know. So it was so good. All right. Well, let's move on to misses in TV. Larry, let's kick it off.
Well, to me, there was really only one, and I don't even have an honorable mention. and that was The Acolyte.
Oh.
I really I was very excited to watch this show. I thought it was going to be cool because it was early, like it was not in the normal Star Wars universe. It took place in the High Republic era, long before Luke and Leia. It was going to be all new characters. It was going to be, and I just was very excited to get some backstory and it just, I don't know what they were thinking. I'm not sure. I was every single episode. I was confused and bewildered, and I just didn't. I don't know who greenlit every episode. And I'm not going to break down like the components of it because it's been, you just go online, it's all there. It was so not Star Warsy, I guess. I mean, it looked Star Warsy, but it also looked very cheap. I mean, it wasn't. They spent a lot of money on it, but the sets look cheap. Like they look like everything looked like it was done in a studio. It just, for a franchise like that, that should not have happened. It should not have happened. And it really, it made me cry every week. This was exactly the opposite, Ben, of what you're saying about getting up in the morning and being excited. I get up in the morning and be like,
Dreading it, yeah.
oh my god,
A feeling of dread.
there's still like 4 more episodes. Can I just sleep through this day? Yeah, it was such an unfortunate experience, and the bigger unfortunate part is that the way it ended, there was a potential for a really interesting second season. Like there was a character introduced right at the end, like literally right at the end, almost not at the end, but right at the end, who I was like, oh, we're actually going to get some insight here. And then of course it was canceled because everybody hated it and it got such bad press. I was like, ugh. Like, I just feel like they should have just not released that last episode and just been done with it in advance. So anyway, I hate myself for saying that a Star Wars property made my worst of list, but it did.
You're not alone.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like this. I've read one of the books from this, like this time period. Yeah. And I don't like that everybody's a Jedi. Like, it doesn't matter. Some of those guys, there's no way they're Jedi. Like this, there's just like I just can't stand the fact that everybody's a Jedi now, like in this world. And it just didn't make any sense. Like the whole story didn't make sense, and they kept replaying things a lot, and it was boring. It was just a boring show. And I know there's that one big episode, I'll say it because I don't want anyone to watch this. But when all like everybody dies, like you know what I mean? There's like, and I'm like that was the best part of the show, is half those characters, and you just like wipe them out. Like it just I don't know.
But it was
so terrible.
And I guess the biggest problem for me was that it was not told in a linear fashion. So in a show where you don't know any of the characters, you've never met them before, you don't know anything about them, you need to connect with them early on and connect with their stories and really get a hold of who they are and what they're doing before you're going to continue. But because they were jumping around back and forth, they weren't telling it in a linear way, you didn't know why any of these people were doing these things, or nor did you care. Early on, somebody killed a Jedi, and you're like, I don't even know who that guy is. Like, I don't know who that Jedi is. Why? Like, introduce him first. Give me a little bit of story so I care about him. It was not told in the fashion that it should have been, being a brand new show with brand new characters. You needed to build the first season and just talk about who these people were and why they're doing with what they're doing. Next season, make it non-linear. That's fine, because we know who they are. Give us some backstory coupled with the future, but it was just a mess from the beginning, and it makes me sad. Yeah.
And don't even get me going on the twins aspect of it. Like, I can't stand twins and things, because it's not like the killer bees in WWE. Like, you can't just switch them out and nobody knows who they are. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, are people that stupid? Like, I've changed my hair, now I'm that person. Like, I don't believe that in a second. Like, it's the stupidest like way of telling a story.
It's true.
And a sexy
I don't hate
Sith
twins
Lord.
generally. I just hate them in these shows because it's just such a stupid way of like, I guess you're a different person because you've changed your clothes now. Like maybe you can tell they're not the same person. Like, don't get me started on this whole thing. This is so annoying. Now you got me. I forgot about it till you brought it up. Now I'm really like,
did you had blocked it out?
Yeah, because now I got to watch stupid Skeleton Crew, which I think is like, that might even be on my worst of this year. So let's just wait and see.
Oh my god.
Pretty bad characters that no one invests in, and focusing on the sexy side of Star Wars. Ooh, look how sexy that Sith Lord is. Ooh, boy, that's the point of Star Wars.
Seriously, a lot of toplessness, male toplessness going on.
Who was this for? Like, who was this show for?
I don't know.
Skeleton Crew, at least. Skeleton Crew, I thought was okay. At least that's aimed at a younger audience. They know that it stars a bunch of young characters with Jude Law, so therefore it's going to be aimed at kids, and hey, something kids can watch, as opposed to The Acolyte. Kids so watch that for many reasons, right? That's the only show, the only Star Wars show I never finished was The Acolyte, and I finished. I even finished Book of Boba Fett, which had a terrible ending, but I did not finish The Acolyte. I could not.
Well, you should watch at least the last 10 10 minutes of the last episode, just so you know the character I'm talking
Oh, I know
about.
what happens. I know who
Oh,
you're,
yeah.
who
Yeah,
and what
he-
you're referring to by the very end. I know what you mean because I've
All
seen
right.
it in YouTube clips and people talk about it.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
care about spoilers at that point, so
All right, fair enough. Fair
it's
enough.
a sunken ship.
Yeah. Very much so.
Ben, you want to throw any rage in there while we're on it?
No, it's funny because this was a year, I think one of the first years where if I wasn't vibing on something, I just would stop watching it. So my list of really bad shows is pretty low. That was one of them. And same with Neil, I didn't end up finishing it. I just couldn't get into it. I didn't dig anything about it. So one thing that I was kind of interested to start and then did not get very far into, and this is a deep cut. Netflix did an animated reboot of Good Times from the 70s. And
Wow.
I loved Good Times growing up. It was like one of those sick at school, like sick at home from school. I'd watch so much Good Times. I bought them on DVD when they were available. I loved Good Times.
Yeah.
So they did an animated like 2024 version, and it was
With Jimmy Walker?
Jimmy Walker is in it, but he plays a singing cockroach in their apartment. It's the worst. Like it is offensive on so many levels. It's the laziest, crappiest, also like old stereotypes of like slum living and that sort of thing. It's outrageous. The baby is a drug dealer. Like it's wild. It has nothing to do with the original, but it's insane. Like it is absolutely insane. And
Where
not
did you
in like
find this?
It's on Netflix. Like Netflix they were excited about this at one point, and I couldn't. There's a lot of conspiracies going on that Netflix is just using AI to write some of their programs, and this feels like this is AI written horrible absolute crap. I couldn't believe in 2024 a show like this was being made. Like it wasn't reverent of the original. The fact that Jimmy Walker was even in it astounded me.
Yeah.
It's outrageous. And it's one of those, like, maybe people may curiously watch it at this point, but it was.
You know I am.
I know. Look, you're right on it.
Watching this thing. I need to see how bad this is. This is the Madam Web of TV. Right here.
It is everything terrible in everything of TV. Yeah.
That is the best review I've ever heard. Okay.
I've never heard of this at all.
No,
like
neither have I.
that's classic.
Totally.
Okay, I have to watch at least the first episode now just to see what you're talking about.
Is it called Good Time?
It's called Good Times. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's not. It's definitely not.
It's bad
Ironic
time.
title.
It's real bad time. Real bad.
Oh my god, that's awesome. All
That
right.
is amazing. How did I miss that? That's crazy.
Oh, man.
I missed it too. Oh, it's so good.
All right.
Jimmy Walker. Oh my god, is there
I don't know if I can beat that one, but this show I thought was just like I don't know. I don't know why it was made. It was Time Bandits. Did anybody watch
Nope.
the new Time Bandits? Was it Taika Waititi? Is that how you say his name?
Taika Waititi. Yeah.
Yeah, I like his stuff. Time Bandits, the movie itself, has just a feeling that you have when you watch. I don't know if it's because we watched it as kids or I don't know what it is, but there's just something you're rooting for everybody in it. This was like 8 episodes. I think it was about 8 episodes or 10, and it was way too long. And it looked great, but just not. It wasn't funny. It wasn't like I don't know what it was. Like Lisa Kudrow was in it. Like she was like one of the main people like stealing, and it had like some kind of funny like side like comment lines, you know what I mean, but not good enough that it made it interesting. Not from start to finish. I don't even know why I watched it. Like I couldn't like unlike Ben, I have to watch the whole thing once I've watched the first like frame. I gotta I'm committed and I gotta see what this is about. But if you haven't seen it, I highly suggest you don't watch it.
Would it have been better if Lisa Kudrow was a singing cockroach? Would that have been better at all?
That would have improved the show big time. Like everybody in it was decent, but then again, it was just didn't make sense. Like it was just, and they left it open for a sequel, which I think it's already been canceled. So
yes,
that's not happening. I don't think a season 2.
I did not watch it specifically because Luke told me about this as he was watching it. I was like, I'm not even going to bother. And then it was canceled, so I'm really pleased that I didn't.
Yeah, and they did a lot of like homages to the movie, but it just it didn't make any sense. Like it just wasn't good. Like it just
unnecessary.
Yeah, it was just boring. I think that's what it was. I fell asleep through about 2 episodes. Like, where I'd have to go back and rewind it and rewatch parts because I kind of fell asleep because I'm like, this is really slow and they could have been like half-hour episodes and they were hour episodes that just didn't move. So, anyways, I could tell how good it was when no one else watched it. Like,
But I cannot stop thinking about this Good Time show now.
I know. I'm like, what? I would have rather watched that than Time
I totally
Bandits.
want to. Can we just pause for a minute so we can go watch this thing? I'm so intrigued by this.
Okay, we're back. We all watched Time Bandits and Good Times, and now we can talk about them.
Does the Jimmy Walker cockroach at least say dynamite?
You know, it's funny. I don't know if he did or not, but he refuses. He charges so much money to say that. Like, he'll appear in a show, but then he'll charge extra money, like a bonus, to even say that. I remember he was on Scrubs, and they were talking about how they didn't have the budget for him to say dynamite in the show.
Wow. And yet he'll play a singing cockroach.
Yeah. Who knows? Who knows?
I don't understand.
Mm-mm.
All right, Neil, what's your worst of the year for TV?
We're 2 sci-fi shows that, well, not sci-fi, I guess. Well, anyway, one of them is sci-fi. Was a show that disappointed a lot of people. A lot of people said it was boring. I thought it was interesting, and that is Dune Prophecy.
Oh,
I haven't watched that yet. It's on my list.
Okay. It's like 10,000 years before Paul Atreides. Okay, I won't say anything. I won't spoil anything. The acting in the show is brilliant. We got Emily Watson and Olivia Williams, I think it is, and you got Mark Strong in there, and you got that actor from Vikings is really good. I forget his name. Anyway, there's a whole bunch of great actors in this show, and I thought it was actually really cool and really interesting. For the, let's say, ADD crowd, the hyper ADD crowd that maybe just like too bored too easily with too much dialogue and exposition and things, they hated it. I saw a lot of hate for that show. But I did not hate it, and same with the Rings of Power season 2. So here I go.
I like the second season of it.
Yeah, they did a good job with Sauron, with Anatar and Celebrimbor. And if you've read the
haven't watched it. No spoilers.
Okay, well, have you read the books though? You kind of know what it's about. No, okay, so I won't say anything, but I will say that it was quite a big improvement from season 1. Season 1 had some stupid stuff, some lapses in logic. How did they get all those horses to Middle Earth? Things like that. But I liked Galadriel. I liked Elrond. I really liked the dwarves, especially this time around. I thought they did more cool stuff with the dwarves, and that's all I'll say about that. Right. But the real stars of the show, I thought, were the actors that played Sauron and Celebrimbor. They were fantastic. The way they dealt with the whole Sauron the Deceiver tricking people, making the rings. That's the whole point of the show, is to make these rings. Really? They're doing things in different order than the books, and they're introducing certain characters that are not there yet, according to Tolkien lore. So gatekeepers tend to hate it. They're like, oh, it's a 1 star. It's a terrible show. It's like, it's not a terrible show as a show. The only thing you don't like about it is that it is, in your book, a bad adaptation of a very difficult, if anyone's ever read the Silmarillion, it is like a sprawling, confusing book to read. So anyway, 2 shows that I think were a little bit underrated there: Dune Prophecy and Lord of the Rings: Rings of Power, because Larry already said The Acolyte. That's my pick for worst show of the year. So I thought I'd throw in a couple of underrated ones. So definitely check out Rings of Power. It is worth your time if you have Prime anyway. And you like Lord of the Rings, it's pretty good. Same with Dune Prophecy. You loved part 1 and 2. This one is not as exciting or action packed, but it's still really good, I thought.
Rings of Power, the second season. I the first season I was like okay on. The second, so I was kind of dreading watching season 2, to be honest. But I like season 2 a lot. I thought they really like tightened up the story, and there was more story to be told in the second season, and it was quite enjoyable. And everybody dies at the end. Oh, sorry, Larry, I didn't mean to spoil. Yeah, I know, I didn't mean to spoil it for you, but once again,
even Pippin.
Pippin, yes. Pippin makes an appearance in it.
Yeah,
Pippin dies first? What?
Yeah.
Oh.
He gets killed by Darth Vader. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on.
All right. Well, let's take a look at what we're looking forward to in 2025, like a movie, TV show, whatever it is that's going to come out this year. I will start us off on this, and I'll start with Fantastic Four First Steps. That'll be my pick. I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. I collect the comic for years. I still collect the comic. So I'm really, and there's been some hits and misses with Fantastic Four along the way. I didn't mind the original movies, not the Roger Corman one, but the ones after that. But the last one was terrible. The with Miles
And Four Stick. Yep.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was almost boring Fantastic Four adaptation I've ever seen in my life. But I'm really looking forward to this to see, because when they Marvelize it, like in the Marvel universe, they're going to do something cool with it, because and obviously the characters are going to probably show up somewhere else down the line. So I'm really curious to see how if they can get the tone of the comic. I think they've got it, and I think plus the special effects, like the Thing's got to be. I don't think people realize how big the Thing is in Marvel Comics, like as a character, beyond Fantastic Four. And they've never been. They kind of captured him in those other two movies, but not. They didn't have the special effects to make him look cool, which was the problem. Now they can make him look cool, but hopefully they capture his energy and how cool the Thing is. So that's what I'm looking forward to the most this year. We'll see.
Nice. We'll see.
Next we'll go to you, Larry.
Oh, okay. So what I'm most excited about this year are series enders. There are a lot of seasons that are coming up this year that will end off TV shows, and I love a good series ender. So we've got Stranger Things finally coming up to end that series. We've got Andor season 2. And there will only be the 2 seasons. Loved Andor season 1, one of the best Star Wars things ever. So I'm super excited about Andor season 2. Squid Games season 2 is out now. They're releasing season 3 this year, and season 3 is the finale. So like 2 seasons almost back to back. So that will finish off Squid Games, and The Handmaid's Tale. Not as geeky. Well, I guess it's kind of geeky. Is coming out this year to wrap up that series as well. So you've got a lot of really top-notch series that have been going on for years and years. Some of them will finally get their grand finale this year. So there's going to be a lot of, hopefully solid endings that won't ruin shows for us. But I'm excited to see how all of these series wrap up, because I've been a fan of all of them, and so I'm really excited to see how they come together.
Neil, what do you think? What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to something that's already here. So this took. You might have noticed this is a Nintendo 64 controller. And it's really just marketing for Nintendo 64 Quest. So I don't know if you guys in London are familiar with Mr. Jay Bartlett and Mr. Rob McCallum, the award-winning director-producer of Magic of Make Believe, the story of Mr. Dress Up. They've put together another documentary. This time it's a series, so it's a show that's on Prime right now. It's on Super Channel. You can watch. There's like 14 episodes or so. Oh. And what it is basically it's a goal for charity. But Jay is going around collecting every single Nintendo 64 game that ever came out in North America. So I think it's 296 games.
Oh, wow.
And just like 10 years ago, he did another documentary called Nintendo Quest about finding all the Nintendo cartridges. And again, in the end, it's all about charity. So this time around, it's for the Alzheimer's Society of Canada. So when he buys all these games, he sells them off, he auctions them off, and the proceeds go to Alzheimer's Society of Canada because his mother had Alzheimer's and she passed away recently. So it's kind of a personal thing. I did contribute to the Kickstarter. I'm like a little bit of a producer. A little bit. No, it's great stuff, and it's all for a good cause. It's a lot of fun. You get to find out all these wonderful video game stores across Ontario and Ohio, New York, all over the place. Get to meet some great people along the way. So definitely looking forward to that. And very quickly, I want to say, in terms of like a fictional show that I'm looking forward to next year, I wish Fallout was coming back, of course, but it's not. But it's The Boys. So The Boys, based on the comic book, I believe that's ending too this year. And the only reason
I think it is actually. Yeah, I think you're right.
Right.
Yeah, it's ending on Prime this year. And the only reason I kind of bring it up is because I've read the comics, right? I'm a big Garth Ennis fan, Garth Ennis is really funny. He likes his, sex jokes and his gross out jokes and stuff, and you see that in The Boys quite a bit. But I'm interested in knowing how they're going to end it. I'm fascinated because I've read the comics. I know how it ends, but they said specifically in the press that it's not going to end that way. It's going to be totally different. I'm like, oh boy, what are they going to do? So I can't wait to find out how The Boys ends.
I love when they do that. I love when it's something based on an established story, whether it's Game of Thrones or The Boys or whatever else, and they totally change it. They manipulate the story and they change it so that nobody can spoil it for you. I mean, even the diehards who know how it ends in the original printing or in the original source material, they get something new too. I think that's pretty exciting.
All right, Ben.
Well, I definitely had Stranger Things on my list, and Larry, I agree. It's partly, can we please just get some more? It's been years at this point, and like, how are they possibly going to tie it all in? I'm really excited for that to wrap up. I loved season 4 after not loving season 3, so looking forward to that. Yep. Larry, I'm shocked. I don't want to steal this from you, but Welcome to Derry. I am so excited for that series.
Yes, I totally forgot about that. Yes, that would have.
I guess Larry doesn't like it as much as he thinks he does. Then
no, I guess not. No.
I guess Ben's the biggest fan of it. Okay, so Ben, go on about that.
Larry and I did a car trip. We did a little road trip up to Port Hope when they were filming. Was that part? It must have been part 2, or just in between parts 1 and 2, right?
No, we went for part 1. We went to audition to be extras in part 1.
That's right.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was part 1, and we had heard that they was coming to Port Hope, which is only a short 3-hour drive from where we live.
Yeah,
and so we hopped in the car and decided to get in line and although no, we didn't apply to be extras. We had applied to be crew
members for that. Yeah.
So we put in our applications and they never called us. We were very
not surprised there.
Now, having said that, I've been back. I went back again with my son to before episode 1, and then I went back again with him before part 2 to see the set and walk the streets and all of that. And then my son and I went back because we heard that they were back in Port Hope for Welcome to Derry because they were shooting back there. And as we were standing there, they called lunch. So all the actors left. We watched the whole scene happen. All the actors left. My son and I were standing on the street, and Andy Muschietti comes out of one of the doors and walks over to us. And we had like a 10-minute conversation on the street corner about the show. He told us that Bill Skarsgård was involved before Bill Skarsgård had actually signed his contract. And at which point, Andy Muschietti's handler sort of said, okay, you gotta, okay, that's enough talking. Yeah, so we got to actually meet him that day.
Well, you're the bigger fan then, I guess, but I'm still looking forward to it either way. I think that's gonna be great. I'm really looking forward to that.
I just forget things. I like so many.
Did he think you're a clown? Is that why he came over to you? Is that I need more information on this.
There's a lot of just old properties that I'm excited to see again. I'm super excited for 28 years later. That looks fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic about Daredevil, Born Again. See how that might go.
I'm excited about that too.
Yeah. White Lotus season 3 is coming out too. Like there's a bunch of that kind of stuff. Just the return of some things, but adding Stranger Things into that list after so many years down, and sometimes interest wanes and that sort of thing. If it's been too long, you're not as excited. But I feel like the marketing's got to start ramping up pretty soon for it, and I'm pretty jacked for that one.
And of course, the one I'm already putting this as my worst movie of the year. The new Avatar movie will already be for 2025. I've hated every one of them.
You're putting that over the IPs that have gone into public domain, including Bambi and Popeye. Those horror movies you're saying are going to be better than Avatar?
Yes, I am. I'm putting that out there to the world right now. I've hated every Avatar movie, so I don't know why this one will be any different than the other ones.
All both? Yeah.
They're so punchable, those avatars.
There's no more remakes. That's what I say. I mean, like I know that like Disney will keep remaking their animated features and remaking them completely in live action is totally pointless, of course.
Yeah.
Mufasa was a prequel, at least. That was a different thing. But anytime they do that, I just go, this is so pointless. Just like The Crow, you know? Why did they make that movie? I don't know. But it's funny because it's actually an interesting year for Bill Skarsgård, right? Because he's in the worst remake, The Crow, and he's in one of the best remakes in Nosferatu. So good for him. Well, good year for Bill.
It's going to be an interesting 2025, 100%.
That will be out there.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for being on again this year. And I'll see you in about 12 months for the next one.
Countdown's on.
All right, perfect. All right, this is Loop and Larry, Guardians of Geek. Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Produced by Matthew C. Loop and Lawrence Simner. A Loop and Larry production.
Bueller.
He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
Bueller.
Bad news. Fog is getting thicker.
And Leon's getting larger.
Inconceivable. Brian's right. It's an elf.
Wax on.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Wax off.